You sure know how to make a moderator feel right at home here at SAG-AFTRA Foundation. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. So, what did you think of Pray for Rain? It's a mystery, it's provocative, and we are going to have a great session right now here at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. With cast members, please welcome Nicholas Gonzalez, Annabelle Stephenson, and Jane Seymour. Thank you so much for being here today. We're going to have a great talk. First of all, let's talk about the first time you read the screenplay. What was it about the story, Pray for Rain, that really grabbed you? Let's start with you, Nick.
For me, I mean, it's not often that you get to do a film that has a cause, and a cause that you can get with. And I felt like it was bringing a story somewhere very close to all of us that so many people just don't know about, and it was bringing it to the forefront, and to me there was a lot of heart.
Annabelle?
I have to sort of echo Nick on that one, but one of the big sort of heart in it, like sort of the themes in it that I sort of felt gravitated towards was loss.
You're the lead.
It's
a lead, yeah, that sounds
great. Loss, and it's something that all of us are affected by, whether it's personal or whether it's environmental, and that was a huge theme that was very difficult to delve into, but very important, I think, to address those sort of things.
I was not on the movie for very long, but when I read it, I thought it was very different. I agree with you. I felt it was a subject matter I didn't know much about, although I'm actually a great water advocate, and water has always been a big issue with me. And it was a great slice of life, but I also thought it was a really fun role for me to play because it was not glamorous, it was not sexy. It was a woman who's flawed and a tense relationship with her daughter. So I thought that was kind of cool.
I was going to say that seeing you with a shotgun, actually that was kind of sexy, I'm not going to lie.
Watch out with me and guns.
You know, but as I was watching, I've been living in Southern California now for about 30 years, and there's just was so much that I didn't know about buying water. I mean, I know we all pay our water bills, but this is obviously very, very different. So what kind of research, what kind of preparation did you do to sort of get that knowledge? And
You know, we were supported by and surrounded by people from the community that felt very strongly about the issues that we were dealing about. They finally felt like, hey, someone's giving a voice to the situation we're in. So there wasn't really a shortage of people then kind of directly dealing with it that we were involved with while doing the film, and that was kind of the best research.
Yeah, and even Paul has family up in that very area that we were filming, or very close by. So we were able to listen to his personal stories about his property and his family and what they'd gone through, and that was really, that hit close to home for us, so that was very educational.
And you know, I was told it was in the wine country, Sonoma. I was like, okay, a few days, I'm going to have some wine.
I'm not going to lie, that was, you look first, you see location.
The smell, I said to Annabelle, I said, this isn't vineyards, this is cow dung. Yeah. Like a lot of it. It was like unbearable. So it required a lot of wine at the end of the day too.
It did.
Yes, so that we could really be motivated.
Sometimes in the middle of the day.
The truth comes out, doesn't it? But for Annabelle, you know, you're in basically almost every scene in the film. I mean, that's got to be cool and be awesome and a little daunting, but you also get to have a little bit of a hint of at a romance. You're sleuthing around and you have a great mother-daughter relationship. It's flawed, but
great,
you know, little flawed. But you know, what kind of challenges were there for you to sort of be able to hit on all those notes?
Well, ironically, I came on at the very last minute. I came on board 2 days before we started filming. So I really had to jump in head first. So I really just went with the support of my cast members, and I was lucky enough to have a really great one, great cast. So the challenges were just, getting on a dirt bike when I'd never done that before. That was interesting.
You rocked
Welcome
that.
on set. Get on. So, yeah, there was multiple, but that was the fun one I got to overcome.
One of the things, like, you're watching a movie and you're watching a mother-daughter or a father-son, or, sometimes you're looking at the casting and you're going like, no, mm-mm. But in this case, I was like, wow, okay, this is actually really great. Like, but it's really the warmth and the connection, the depth that you both have. So did you have some time to really rehearse and spend time together to get to know each other a little bit so you could bring that to the table when you were filming?
Well, we did actually spend a lot of time together, because like Annabelle, suddenly I'm doing this thing and we just met, but we hung out, we had dinner, we had a glass of wine, we talked about life. I mean, we shared a lot, and that's the kind of thing that you do. You don't think of it as studying, but you develop a trust. And of course I have 6 children, so 2 of whom are daughters, so I understand that mother-daughter dynamic, and I had it with my own mother, and I don't know whether you did with your mother, but
Well, being from Australia, and this was my first feature film, so going through that intense experience and then being able to ask advice and just have a laugh at the end of the day was very, very helpful for me. And a dance.
you did brilliantly. I didn't realize it was your first feature.
Yeah, it was.
Amazing. Actually, the other thing that was interesting was, obviously she's an Aussie and I'm a Brit, and we're both playing Americans. So, we were coming at that playing that game too.
Well, I got to tell you, when I was doing my research, I was like I know I've never seen you, and I'm like looking for feature films, and I'm like, wow, you crushed it. So bravo, great job. But in terms of the subject line, what did you learn making the movie about the water situation in California? Because it's the West Coast, water everywhere, not a drop to drink, and it's more valuable than gold, really. So what did you learn making this film?
Well, that there's still areas, even though it seems that we're out of the drought and there was so much rain, that there's still areas in the southern central valley that are dealing with drought levels and water that won't be replaced for decades to come. So, and this is where, like it says in the film, a lot of people don't realize the Central Valley grows all the food for America, not just for California. And so when it's dealing with that and the water levels are that low, and then there is water there, and it's being diverted for different reasons. I mean, it's a very political minefield. But to realize that it's long-lasting damage that's going to stay for decades to come.
Yeah, and to the families as well, and the humanity crisis that with all the food banks and all that, and the showering, for these people that are a drive away, and that was really shocking to me.
I did. I've done a couple of documentaries about water issues globally, and especially the American Southwest. And I spent time with the chief of the 4 nations, or the 4 territories, whatever it was called. I can't remember what it was called, but I do remember. And I was talking to him, and he was just telling me how terrible it is. They diverted the river. The water, came off the reservation. They were supposed to be given water back as much as they needed. Their culture is they only want as much as they need. They didn't need to have it all. And they never got it. And they go to Washington all the time to try and get water. So water is the single most, it's, as you said, it's more valuable than oil. We can live without oil. We can never live without palatable or potable water. It is a huge issue. It's something I've always been involved with. But doing this, and realizing that, there are scurrilous people who buy it. It's very political. And then the whole ecological end of that. How do you find balance? And everything in life has to be balanced. We have to find a way that we can share and find a way that it makes sense.
Well, the film, you watch a movie like this, and of course you think of something like Chinatown or LA Confidential. I mean, those are like bar-setting movies right there. But then you also have the mystery aspect of it, the corruption that's going on, and the romance that's starting to brew there. The mother-daughter. So this movie does a lot in 93 minutes, I gotta say.
I had a fun 3 weeks.
It's 3 weeks. Now, when you were working on the film, when you started working on it, were you able to improvise to like further develop your characters from what was on the page when you first got the script? Or did you just shoot what you read?
The time frame was very short, so we basically just had to go with the script. But if there were, I mean, I think also the chemistry with each actor fleshed out the scenes. But yeah, we were on quite a tight time schedule.
It was incredibly tight, and really to do these movies, these indie movies, in 3 weeks requires great professionals who are ready that when they say now, you maybe only get one take. You know, so this whole idea of, well, eventually we'll get it right after 28 takes, I have not seen that in movies anymore. Every movie I'm in now, they'll print the first take, you know, unless the camera sort of falls on you or a boom or something. You have to be ready and you have to be prepared, and if it's an emotional scene, you don't get a warm up. That's it.
It was very tight, but I do remember a lot of rewriting. I think it was just in between scenes, and it was usually right before, very feverishly, right before we'd get to it, and just, this doesn't really seem like it feels right in my mouth, which you would normally know well before, but in this case, you were figuring out right there on the spot because that's how fast we were moving.
Do you like that process? I mean, or does it make it a little more nerve-wracking for you as an actor?
That's indie film, you know, really. I think with studio stuff, you just kind of fret for a longer period over what you're going to have to say weeks later because you're always on location for a long time and not shooting as much. Here, it's like you never get a chance. Like, you could have a trailer. It doesn't matter. You're not in it. You know, you stay on set, and they usually have a room there, and everybody's, you know, looking at their phones. That's the other thing that's changed now on set. You know, everyone's like this all the time. But we didn't get a lot of reception, so we actually talked a lot.
Had to talk.
That helped. But there was a lot of rewriting just because, you know, you want it to sound right, because you want to make it yours, and there's so much that you feel works in a story when someone's reading it, but when you're trying to put it out there and bring it to life, it suddenly doesn't feel right. So.
Do you feel that with the advent of like Amazon and all the other streaming services that we now have, that it has helped independent film? Because I feel like there are a lot of independent movies that might not get seen in theaters that do get seen at home because people have massive TVs like I do. I mean, movies are still the way to go, but it is. How do you feel like the landscape has changed with like the Hulus and the Netflix and the Amazons to benefit movies like this?
Well, I think I've done a lot of independent movies recently, and I've got 2 really good ones in the can that have not found a home yet and should have. And I don't know what's happened. I think the producers just didn't want to make the right deal or whatever. But, you know, my prayer is that it will end up on Amazon or Hulu or somewhere, because that's where I watch everything now. I don't know who has time to watch all these different things. I mean, I was binge watching Homecoming or Homeland on my way here. You know, it's like, that's what I was doing. And I that's the only way you can. But I do think it's fantastic that we have all those different places to watch, and you're not having to deal with whether or not the network thinks, you know, it was too edgy or not edgy enough, or, you know, this I don't think could make it on the big screen for very long. Although it was wonderful to watch it, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, it was amazing. We went to a big premiere, and oh my God, it looked amazing. Yeah.
Well, what was the reaction that you got after that premiere? Like when people saw the film and you're right there, people were coming up to you, giving their reaction to the film. I mean, was there something that stuck out to you, whether it was a review or somebody said something about your performance or about the subject matter of the movie that stayed with you?
Well, I wasn't there because I was freezing my ass off doing another indie film in even less shooting days in Columbus, Ohio. So I had to hear about all the glamour secondhand.
It was fantastic. There was such a diverse audience in that night, and there were people from the farms that had come down to watch it. There were young men and women who had no idea that, you know, were in their early 20s, and teenagers even, and they They came away having learned something about it, and that was like that. And but they enjoyed it. Like, I mean, the romance. They were like, there are a few ladies. They were very pleased to watch the film.
You know, you were absolutely right about that. I was astounded. I mean, I have a 21-year-old, have twins actually, but one of them was there at the premiere, and I thought, oh, you know, he'll just come and watch something that his mom's in, and he's still talking about it. And he told me today that he just drove there on Sunday to check it out. He said, yes, Mom, it smells like cows. I said, so why would you drive 6 hours to smell some cows? But he loves the movie, loves it. And he goes to a church and he just tells everybody that they have to see this movie. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I didn't think this was 21-year-old material, but apparently it is.
Yeah, you know, you're driving up the 5 on the way to San Francisco and you just hit that spot. It's the worst. It is the worst. Well, because we are here with SAG-AFTRA Foundation, I have to ask, when did you first decide that you wanted to be an actor? You first. Like, when did you have that epiphany?
Yeah, I had it in college, and I was merely doing theater for fun, and just didn't really think of it as a career, and left my pursuit of investment banking, management consulting, and
Good move.
became an actor. I chose life. Yeah.
I've always performed. I play musical instruments. I dance. I speak languages. I've always just been involved in the arts. And I think I was about 14 when I realized I could make money out of it. And I Googled the best agent in my town and said to my mum one day, "Oi, Mum, I'm meeting a guy at the pub." "Sorry?" "Meeting a guy at the pub. I've got some shots. I'm going to go take it down." "What shots do you have, Annabelle?" Signed with him, and that's really when the professional sort of career sort of started. I just thought there was too many stories to be told that I had to tell.
You're on a roll, yes.
Well, I was selected very early on for having a speech impediment. I couldn't pronounce my R's, and I have flat feet. So my parents, who didn't have enough money, put me in ballet school, and I wanted to be a ballerina. And I ended up in a professional school. I got a scholarship. And you had to, even if you wanted to do ballet, you had to do acting and everything else. And I kept winning the acting prize, even though I wasn't supposed to. And my flat feet and lack of turnout enabled me to, at some point, hurt my knee. And I danced with the Kirov at Covent Garden, so I achieved that. And then I became an actress by default. So here I am, actress by default. And I pronounce my R's now, which it was a wound a wagged walks, and you Americans, you pronounce your R's. So I just, that's what I do now. I pronounce R's.
What are the things what's the one thing that you look for that hits you first when you're reading a script and you get scripts from your agent, your manager, whatever? Is it the character? Is it the writing? Is it the story? Is it the scope of the story? Like, could be anything. But what's the first thing that hits you when you're reading something?
Probably for me, it's story. I want it to be good. You just so many times you read a script and you just start to want to pick it apart. But more than anything, I want to be brought in by the story. So then you're excited to be a part of that telling of that story, rather than just picking your piece out of it.
And I have a technical background in terms of training at NIDA in Sydney for 3 years. So the writing aspect of it also comes into play, which I think is intertwined with the story. I think the words on the page are someone's thoughts, their feelings, their soul. So that itself speaks to me.
I find that if it doesn't put me to sleep, it's always good. But I usually find that if it makes me laugh and cry, then I know it's going to be a winner. And I've read scripts where everyone else said, "Oh, I don't know." I mean, like Dr. Quinn. I mean, I laughed and I cried and I cried and I cried and I said, "I got to do this." And then I read Wedding Crashers and I said, like, how can I not do this? This is hilarious. So, it's all in the writing.
We have some questions from SAG-AFTRA Foundation members. And the first one, you'll have to raise your hand because you did not write your name on this, but that's okay. The first question is, do you have a method for preparing for your roles? And does it change depending on the kind of role that you're preparing for?
For me, it's always different. I envy people who have a set way of going after it, a discipline. But I never really try to close off any sort of discipline because, that might be the solution for me in a particular one. And I always find that there's been different ways I've come around to a character, and more often than not, it's sitting there and having the worst anxiety about it and fretting over it until something finally speaks to you, and then you start to build around that.
First of all, I go with my gut, but I am quite a nerd, so I do a lot of script work, and I studied the Stanislavski, but I use all those building blocks just for backup. I try and do as much work as possible, and then I just put it away in the back chamber and then allow to sit with the actual personal experience for a while, and then try to see how they amalgamate on the day.
I think I really just become that person. I just show up and I'm that person. And for me, it's all about the hair. Once I get the hair right.
Mine's the shoes.
Yeah. I got the hair and then the costume. And then, obviously I learn the lines. But I'm an actor that likes to, I have an idea of what I'm going to do, but I can't wait to actually listen and learn and see what the environment does to me and see what the props do and see what the other actors give me. And I really love when I'm directed and they say, okay, now do it upside down and backwards. I don't say, well, I don't see that in the script and I disagree, which I see a lot of people do. I just go, why not? We've got this way, let's try that way, and then let's try another. So what I often do with directors, because I'm very happy to do what they want to do as well as something I might bring, I'll then say, after they say, wow, we got it, I'll say, oh, can I have a freebie? So I do freebie acting, and that's usually where I get to take it to another place, because now I'm not trying to please myself or the director, I'm just throwing it out there and seeing what lands. And so that's what I try to do.
Is there an example where you did that and it was something that you were really proud of and it made it and everybody went, wow, that was great, and it was like a great scene from a movie or a television show that you did, where you threw something out there to see if it was going to stick and everybody just was blown away by it?
Well, I mean, I think, the little snarl after saying kitty cat in Wedding Crashers, that was not scripted, But I mean, you studied acting. I studied to some degree too. I don't know. Sometimes you just, I think you just have to get out of your own visual. I talk about my best acting is when I've done the preparation and then it's like you jump from the high board and you do know how to swim, but you don't actually know how you're going to go there. But you have to go with complete authority and confidence. You just have to believe that you are that person and this is what's happening. And that's, what I tend to do. I have no idea what I've done afterwards, ever. No idea, none at all.
I honestly think that's the best advice, if you take it as advice, but I think it's only been later on in my career where I've started to, instead of coming and ready to show everything I've worked on and unload it in front of you, whether you asked or not, I come more ready to see what's going to happen, ready to show up, have done my work, the words are there, and hopefully if they're good, it makes sense when I'm looking you in the eye and they come to me because that's what would happen next as this character. But that's really the best part is get out of your own damn way, because most of it you just want to show what you did and all the work you did, but often you're getting it further and further from human emotion or the way people really talk to each other, because you're trying to put so much performance there that it takes out the heart and it doesn't feel real. And we pick it out. I mean, we're pack animals. We sense things, whether it's body emotions, whether it's words, whether it's looks. Those things are all, denote how we're thinking and feeling, and those things are all subtleties we use, and it's nice to see when someone's in control of that. Those are the people we love to watch.
Sometimes I find just putting on a good song when you're stuck in a rut, if you're on set or even just in your earphones, but just putting on a song that's the antithesis of what the mood is. I remember one night we were doing a scene, and in between takes we put on Beyonce, and we were just jamming down.
But we were a little on the crazy side. We did.
We were very tired.
We were a little.
But
we
that
had nothing to do with the scene we then
nothing
played.
to do with the scene, but it was connection. It was just fun and
I forgot that. Yeah, we had a major dance out there because we were both dancers, so we had to
But that was a connection, and it was real, and then that can translate onto the screen, whether it be completely left of center of what we're actually trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I have found, I get that panic attack of, oh my God, I'm not going to remember my lines, and after all these years, and I still get terribly nervous on the first scene, on the first take, and then after that, like I'm dancing Beyonce, I'm done. But that first one, it doesn't matter how many years. I'm 66 years old. I've been doing this since I was 13. You'd think I'd get over it by now, but I don't. But I think, actually I do my best work when I actually do go up and I can't remember what the next line is, because then there's this kind of look that happens where I'm actually having to think, well, where am I? Who am I? Why am I? What did they just say? And then it comes back. And there's that lost moment that invariably is the moment that looks so good on camera. No, really. I hate to say it. My ex-husband, James Keach, used to do it to me all the time. He'd go, okay, now just keep going, rolling. We'll just go back to the beginning. I don't rewind. I don't rewind. But there are those moments when you just get lost that are magic. And of course, I think acting is all about listening. It's not about your lines at all. It's about your reaction to what's happening around you. I firmly believe that. I did a film once in which I was the lead. It was Phantom of the Opera, and I've never forgotten. Maximilian Schell showed up at the read-through. It's pretty much a classic, right? You don't rewrite that on the day. Oh, well, he did. And his idea of a rewrite was to pretty much cut out all my dialogue. And I just sat there and I just thought, damn you. I said, but I will show you how the camera might actually look at me while you're rattling on and on and on and on and on. And it did. It was amazing. I realized you didn't need all those lines. You could actually do it without them.
Like, has there been a moment for you where, like, when you got the bug, the acting bug, an actor or an actress that made you go, wow, that's who I want to be? An actor or actress that inspired you then, an actor and actress that inspires you now?
I have two consistents, Kate Winslet and Kate Blanchett. The Kates. Just one's technical and one's very emotional, so you get the broad spectrum of them. They just always have been and probably always will be. That's a simple answer.
I'd go for the Kates too, but I started out earlier. So Anne Bancroft was magic, and I had the privilege of working with her when she was working with Richard Attenborough. So I was around Richard Attenborough, Laurence Olivier, Anne Bancroft. I watched Larry Olivier prepare for a film that I then watched him film the following day in the living room of Richard Attenborough. And I've never forgotten, he just started telling anecdotes and stories about some school teacher he'd had, at school, and they were talking about that. And I kept thinking, why are they talking about this? And the next day, I'm watching him play this character, and everything that he told us and developed in that, telling us this story about this character, there he was. It was right there. So I actually got to see the famous one do it, but just very seamlessly, It was interesting. So yeah, I'd say, and Audrey Hepburn, of course. I loved Audrey Hepburn.
How about you, Nick?
How am I going to follow that? I'm going to say, yeah.
Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell, yeah.
I was just going to say Will Ferrell. He's amazing. He's incredible.
I get acting crushes that last, from here and there. So and that's the worst when someone asks me on the spot. I can't really think of it. But people, I like Mark Ruffalo. I love Billy Crudup's career. I like Yeah, those kind of guys. I don't know. Tom Hardy right now is pretty exciting.
Yeah,
you know.
you mentioned Kate Blanchett. I was watching. I literally, just because I just love her performance, and I could watch it over and over again. I just watched Blue Jasmine for like the 5th time.
I saw her play Blanche Dubois in Streetcar Named Desire in Sydney. So it was the precursor to that. She was incredible. Like every nerve in her body was radiating to the very back of the theatre. It was incredible.
I remember I was watching that for the first halfway through Blue Jasmine. I was like, here, take this. Take the Oscar. Take it. Question from Sahar for Jane Seymour. Please, and please is highlighted in yellow. So please tell us your secret for your endless elegance, youth, and grace. And do you meditate or have rituals, etc.?
And go.
Okay. My greatest talent, I've discovered, is the ability to sleep anywhere. Yeah, and it's very handy because I keep, changing time zones, so I actually can sleep. I think that's important. I don't know. I'm an ex-dancer, so I have to actually focus on not standing like a dancer when I'm not playing a dancer. Which I'm now slouching very well. I don't know. I just I'm so busy all the time. I'm painting. I'm creating. I've got grandchildren at the house, and I'm doing all kinds of. I'm producing movies. I'm writing books. I don't have time to think about the aging process. I know it's happening. Every once in a while, I look in the mirror and I go, oh. But I have chosen not to do all the things that everyone's been doing, and so I'm working all the time. Yeah, Francis Fisher and we get together every once in a while and we go, no, you didn't, I didn't either. And I said, are you working? She says, yeah, I'm working. I said, I'm working too. And we look around and we said, they aren't. Well, they are, but I mean, I just, I think it's important. I talk to younger actresses a lot because they ask advice sometimes, and the advice I give them is that I really believe that the actor, everything about you is a blank canvas. So I personally don't have tattoos and stuff, not because I don't like tattoos, it's just that I've always wanted to be able to play somebody that might not have a tattoo. So I can put fake ones on, so I don't want to do anything permanent to myself. And I want my character, I earned these facial muscles. And if I want somebody to believe me, and to on the screen, how can I do that if I've paralyzed them and put things in that are going to move in strange ways? So I don't honestly get that. So I'm a semi-permanent person, temporary. Put it in, take it out. That goes hair, eyelashes, tattoos.
What is the best piece of acting advice you ever got, and who gave it to you? Teacher.
My teacher at NIDA, he said, act better.
That's advice. That qualifies. How about you?
I don't know. I don't even know if I get it. The advice was given to me by Edward James Olmos. We were doing, I think it was American Family or something like that, and he was telling me to put my look closer to the matte box and split it between the matte box and him, and it's a little closer to camera, and he goes, it keeps him a little on the edge. So I don't know. So I do that a little bit. Probably just gives you a better eye line.
I think this whole thing with marks is kind of throws a lot of people when they first start. And I don't actually really look at the mark. I kind of go there one time, and then I just see where I am, my periphery vision. What it feels like there. So I never actually look at it. So I would say that's something I would tell somebody else, in terms of, technique. But, I was taught by, I had Dickie Attenborough and people like that around me. And he said, darling, he said, you have a fine instrument, but you need to tune it. So that just means study, study, study. So I've learned to do everything from accents to riding horses in every which way to, whatever it takes. I try to be as prepared as I can be. But like I didn't end up doing all the I did little Stanislavski stuff, but when I did Amadeus on Broadway, I asked Sir Peter Hall, I said, I'm in New York, should I go and take these acting lessons and do this and do that? And he said, no. He said, because that would be a mistake with you. And I said, why? He said, because you make choices that no one in their right mind would ever make, and you make them with such conviction that they're interesting. So, so I guess that's the acting advice I got from Sir Peter Hall.
Well, that's great advice. Nicholas Gonzalez, Annabelle Stephenson, Jane Seymour, thank you so much for being here at SAG-AFTRA Foundation.
you.
And
Thanks
please
for
check
coming.
out Pray
Thank
for
you.
Rain. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.